So this is part 2 of activity 2.2.2, change the motion. At this point, we are going to add joints to create movement for this pantograph. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to duplicate some of the parts here. Particularly, we have to duplicate the long bar, and we have to create 4 copies of the pin. To make a copy of the long bar, go right-click on long bar at the browser and just click copy, and then right-click on the pantograph on the parent and hit paste. And one instance of the long bar is actually on the same place where long bar 1 is. And as you can see, it says long bar 2. All you have to do is drag or move that long bar to a different position for you to see it. So click OK after you've done that. All right, we also need to make copies of the pin. We need to make 4 copies of it. So right-click pin, copy, and then right-click on pantograph, hit paste, move the copy. So that's 1. And then do 3 more, paste. So that's 2. So now we have 5 pins in total. And let's just move the short bar as well, and the medium-sized bar, or the medium length bar. Okay, let's do the same thing with this first pin. Now the next step is for us to create joints. So click joint, and then you'll notice that we are going to attach joint origins. So if I move my mouse on top of the pin, you'll see something showed up. That thing is called a joint origin. It says place joint origin on a component. And normally a component would have several joint origins, one at the top, one at the bottom, somewhere in the middle, and also it sometimes shows up also on the edges, or it shows up on the edges. For the motion, we want it to be rigid. So let's attach one joint origin here at the top. And the behavior is once you attach a joint origin, that component becomes less visible, okay, until you select a second place for your second joint origin. So for the second joint origin, we're going to put it on the first hole. And there's several ways for you to select the first hole. You could move your mouse on the circles or on the arc of the slot. As you can see, I could select the middle still. All right, so let's just do that there. And this is the correct orientation of the pin. If your pin attached in a different way, you might have to click on the flip button, which is this one right here. Let's say you attach it and it came out like this. So all you have to do is click on that flip component over the joint origin and then click OK. So let's try to move. Let me move this component. So both of them are now together in a rigid joint. And if I move the long bar, or if I move this pin, you can see both of them move at the same time. Okay, so position. So let's revert back to the old position. So click position, revert position, and it just takes back. Oh, let me undo that. I don't want to revert that position. So let me just drag it here, just so that we have a starting point instead of reverting the position of all of the components. The next thing we want to do is we want to right click at pin 1. So this is pin 1. I want to right click on pin 1 and ground it. Okay, and then just capture the position. And so now, if I try to move the long bar won't move along with the pin because the pin is grounded, so the long bar won't move at all also. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's do the next joint. Click joint and let's go to motion, and this is another rigid joint. Click the top of another pin and then click the top of the second hole. Click OK. And that's the next one. All right. Now we're going to do another joint, but this time we are going to create a revolute joint, which allows components to rotate around an axis. For this one, I'll click at the bottom of this pin, the second pin that we put, and the bottom of the green one. Okay, and then click OK. And as you can see, what happened is the short bar went under the red bar or under the long bar, and it could now rotate freely around that pin. So if I click, I could rotate it. So what I want to do is I want this at a 90 degrees. And as you can see, you'll see that the angle is showing up right here. So let's just say negative 90 degrees. That would be that. And I will capture that position so that it just stays there. All right, next, let's attach another pin. So joint and select the bottom of one pin. Let's make it another revolute. Let's select this pin right here and select the bottom of this hole and then click OK. All right, so there we have another revolute joint connecting these two. And then next we are going to add the medium bar to it. So joint, this time we are going to create a rigid connection between these two. Click at the top. Okay, and then click at the top of the pin. Then click OK. Next is we're going to add another pin using joint command once more. Click on one of these pins, doesn't matter which one, and we are going to do a rigid again, a rigid joint, and then click at the top of this hole of the bar and then click OK. Okay, next one. So let's do another joint. This time we're going to do a revolute attaching this with this piece. Click OK, and then let's see what happened. All right, it got attached right there. Let's click on the front, or let's click at the top so that we could see it. And then we're going to rotate this, and then you'll see the angle, and I'll rotate it at around 90 or at 90 degrees, and I will capture that position. So the last one is for us to put this last pin. So one more. Let's create a joint. Let's create a rigid joint for now. Click at the top and the top of the hole as well here. Click OK. And I'm just gonna move this bar out of the way, and I will create another joint. This time we are doing a revolute once more. Click here at the bottom of the pin, and then bottom of this hole. Click OK. Okay, let's zoom out and let's go ahead and test our pantograph and see the movement. So if I click and drag on the medium bar, you'll see that I'm able to create movement. If I select the long bar, it won't move at all. And we normally want that to move, which means this joint that I made should have been a revolute joint. So I could go edit joints by going here where it says joints, and the first rigid. See, as I select rigid 1, you'll notice that this gets highlighted. I could right click there and edit my joint, and then click motion and change the motion to revolute and click OK. And now if I move this, I could actually push and have that move around the axis of the first pin. All right, so the only problem with this though is if I do this, okay, there's interference. As you can see, it would go inside, and that's something that we don't want, like that. So we don't want that to happen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do some edits on the revolute mate or the revolute joint of this one right here. So if I select that, it says it's number 4. Let me go on revolute number 4 and click on this down arrow. It says edit joint limits. And then I could supply a minimum and a maximum. Okay, so let me just show you what minimum maximum means. So if I move this, you'll see that there's an angle that shows up right here. And if I go this way up like that before I hit the long bar, that is -74. If I go the opposite way, it would be +74 or 75 in this case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use those two numbers. So I go to revolute 4, click on edit joint limits, and have my minimum to -74 and have my maximum degrees to 74. So if I click OK, you'll notice that I have a limit. I could only move up to there and only up to here. Okay. However, I also have a revolute here, which could go past. Okay, so let's do that again. I just rotated it. Let's see if I could force it to move past it. I think it doesn't. Okay, so it looks like just by doing that, we could limit the movement of the pantograph, and further changes on the other revolute joint is not needed. And that concludes this part of the lesson. So don't forget to save your work